Good morning. I'm Susan Johnson, and I am the membership secretary for the International Wizard of Oz Club. I'm coming to you this morning to read you a story from the 2016 issue of Oziana. In 2015, the International Wizard of Oz Club sponsored a contest to see who could write the best alternative ending to the book Rinkitink and Oz. As many of you know, Rinkitink and Oz was never initially intended to be an Oz story. And it has what many club members believe is a rather awkward ending. So we asked members to propose alternative endings, and we got about 20 submissions. Those were wrapped up into the 2016 issue of Oziana. And I want to read one of those alternative endings to you this morning. This is written by Karen Dykett. Karen Dykett lives in Louisiana with her husband, Chris Dykett, who also wrote an alternative ending that I will be bringing to you. And her son, David Dykett, who has done many projects and displays for the International Wizard of Oz Club. Karen and Chris Dykett hosted a convention, I believe it was in 2017, for the club. And everyone went to Louisiana, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. And David Dykett displayed many pieces of his collection at the nearby university. So this morning, I'm going to bring to you an alternative ending to Rinkitink by Karen Dykett. Chapter 20, Zenoro, the Great Wizard. Prince Ingo wasn't the first person to survive the Gnome King's 3 trick caverns. Many years ago, a great wizard had been the first victor. Thus, legendary tales were passed down about this event. Prince Ingo, Rinkitink, and Bilbo had never heard tales of this great wizard, nor did anyone mention it at this time. Roquat's first reaction upon seeing Prince Ingo was disbelief, which quickly turned to anger and dread. Anyone who could survive the challenges of those caverns would be hard to defeat. All he could think was, why don't they just leave? So feeling very defeated, Roquat returned to his resting chamber. He thought back to the first victor, a wizard by the name of Zenoro, who had come to the Gnome Kingdom to search for a mythical large jewel to adorn his staff of power. Roquat didn't know all the details, but this is what really happened. When the wizard Zenoro dared to venture into the Gnome King's mountain, Koliko, his chief steward, immediately brought him to Roquat. How dare you enter my mountain fortress, Roquat exclaimed. What say you? To which Zenoro replied, Sire, I am Zenoro, a great wizard and user of magic like you. I have come in search of a mythical white glowing jewel for my staff. Let us be men of understanding. Surely we can strike some agreement to satisfy each of us and allow me to leave with my quest fulfilled. Roquat had heard stories of this mythical jewel, but none of the gnomes had ever unearthed one. If and when the jewel was discovered, it certainly would not be put into the hands of an earth-dwelling wizard. Jewels and precious minerals from his domain belonged to the gnomes. Roquat did not desire anyone to take a single jewel from his expansive hoard, but being amused at the prospect of some entertainment, he had Zenoro to believe he might actually find success in this quest. Thoughts, plans, and preparations ensued. Zenoro was treated as a guest, much like Prince Ingo, Rinkitink, and Bilbo, when he found himself in the exact cavern as Prince Ingo. Zenoro was given a delicious meal, a comfortable sleeping mat, and a soft pillow and blanket, after being instructed to see Roquat in the morning for the jewel. Wizards are wise fellows, so this wizard was on his guard and contemplated his situation with thoughtful consideration before falling asleep that fateful night. Scraping sounds awoke Zenoro from his sound slumber, and just as Prince Inga, Zenoro discovered only one means of escape from this room, a very dangerous escape. Luckily, he was a powerful wizard whose wit, wisdom, and experience allowed him to escape destruction and death in the Three Caverns. To bypass, this giant used a spell to turn his cloak into an invisibility cloak, whereby he quietly passed by this obstacle. Zenoro escaped the bed of coals in a similar fashion as Inga by using several projections of rocks for stepping stones, in which he enchanted to float above the coals and rotate with his steps, always providing a safe stepping place. The heat of the coals melted the rock at the bottom of these stones. When Zenoro crossed to the passage beyond the danger of the coals, the stepping stones stopped with him at his feet. Zenoro sat down next to the stones to rest. His eyes were burning from the intense heat he had just escaped. While catching his breath, he closed his eyes. Was his quest for a mythical stone worth all of this? I should just leave my life if given the chance, thought the wizard. Finally, he opened his eyes and noticed a glow coming from underneath one of the stepping stones. Carefully, Zenoro turned the stepping stone over and couldn't believe his eyes. To his surprise, he beheld a white glowing stone, exactly what he had been looking for. Using his magic wand, Zenoro extracted this marvelous jewel from the stone, tightly wrapped it in a handkerchief, and hid it in the inside pocket of his cloak. Roquat was surprised by Zenoro's successful venture through his caverns and granted him peaceful guidance back to the Earth's surface for his departure. Legends only told of the wizard's success through the caverns, but no one knew he had actually completed his quest. When Roquat opened the door and saw Prince Inga alive as could be, he was not amused. All his plans to get rid of these invaders had gone awry. Rinkitink was a happy fellow and first let out a great laugh of eek, 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 keek, keek, and then he sang this song. A king and prince and goat we are, a jolly threesome here, hee hee, more powerful than many men, every battle we will win. Enough of your song. I must return to my chamber, for you have given me a headache with your singing, declared Roquat, who was most upset to see them all still alive by upsetting his devious plans. He instructed Calico to return them to Rinkitink's chambers and until he summoned them. Once alone, the three travelers rehearsed their recent experiences of Roquat's attempts to eliminate them. Since Prince Inga, King Rinkitink, and Bilbil were determined to remain until King Kitticut and King Gary were released, the Gnome King was forced to remove them in any way possible. Roquat was loyal to the promise made to King Goss and Queen Kor to imprison Inga's parents in exchange for gold and jewels. Bilbil complained, I cannot wait to leave this dreary place. We should have never left Gilgad, for there we were comfortable in your palace, Rinkitink. 'Tis true, my good friend Bilbil, but we must help our dear friend Inga in this endeavor. Remember, we have the power of the pearls on our side. We must be patient. Inga's countenance was thoughtful and wistful. How he wished his parents and his people had never been captured, and then he too might have gone to Gilgad to visit Rinkitink. So he quietly replied, I wish all three of us were back in your palace, King Rinkitink. Quick as a wink, Rinkitink, Inga, and Bilbil found themselves in Rinkitink's palace in Gilgad. The three were astonished at the turn of events. How could this have happened? By what power had they been transported out of the Gnome King's mountain to the kingdom of Rinkitink? Yo ho ho, hee 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 hee, exclaimed Rinkitink. How can this be? Poor Inga's countenance fell. He was not one for tears, but now a lone tear fell from his eye as he mournfully cried, "How will I ever rescue my parents now? The Gnome King will never let us back into his domain now that we are gone. He must have used his magic to send us here." Inga, don't despair. My gold and wealth are at your disposal. We can return to the Gnome King with a bribe of our own for the release of King Kitticut and Queen Gary, replied Rinkitink. "Let us refresh ourselves before preparing for our return." A guard entered the chamber with a look of surprise and confusion, exclaimed, "King Rinkitink, where have you been?" "Adventures, adventures, my dear fellow, and they are not yet over," replied Rinkitink. "Call the royal guards and all who wish to gather here in an hour hence, and I will recount our adventures and share a plan of action for our return to the Gnome King's mountain." "Your wish is my command," replied the guard, turning around to make a quick exit. Prince Inga happily accepted the opportunity to soak in a royal tub to ease his tired body, scrub off layers of dirt, and put on clean clothes provided by a servant. Bilbil was also scrubbed by a maid and given fresh hay. When the royal guard began to gather, Rinkitink and Inga were comfortably seated at a table laden with fresh fruits and other delectable food that had been prepared in the royal kitchen. Those who gathered were also treated to a meal, accompanied by a lengthy rendition of their king's adventures. At the close of his account, King Rinkitink laid out his idea to return the Gnome King's mountain ready with gold and precious jewels to trade for the return of Inga's parents. Plans were set to depart the next day. Early the next morning, Inga was amazed to see a royal ship ready for their departure. Chests of gold and jewels, along with food, hay, and supplies for the royal entourage, had been gathered and loaded into the ship through the night. With royal banners whipping in the breeze, they set off with hope to free King Kitticut and Queen Gary. The adventurous trio planned to travel by ship up the coast and then by land to the entrance to the Gnome King's caverns. Once settled upon the ship and alone, Inga decided to consult the White Pearl. With the pearl in his ear, he asked, "Will we be able to free my parents?" The pearl replied, "You are well prepared. Be watchful for all opportunities to assist you in your endeavor." Inga knew the White Pearl was wise from past experience, but still wished it gave more exact information. The pearl had guided him truly this far, so he would continue to trust it and believe what it said to him. The consultation with the pearl gave him added strength and hope for success. Meanwhile, in the Gnome King's dominions, Roquat discovered that same morning that the trio was coming. He had not used his power to send them back to Gilgad. Gnomes were ordered to search everywhere throughout the mountain and bring them back to his royal chamber immediately. As time passed, Roquat grew angrier and angrier. He wondered if they had found Kitticut and Gary and escaped. This was not acceptable. At midday, he summoned Calico for a report. "Calico, have they been found?" asked Roquat. "Not yet, but all gnomes are on the lookout for Rinkitink, Inga, and Bilbil," answered Calico. "They must be here somewhere," exclaimed Roquat. "Our guards would have seen them escape from the mountain. Are you sure King Kitticut and Queen Gary are still in the cavern?" "I have just come from them, sire. They have not escaped." With a sweep of his hand, Roquat dismissed Calico by saying, "Please be vigilant. These intruders must be found." Later that evening, sentinels reported to Roquat that the trio was at the entrance of the Gnome King's mountain, accompanied by 6 guards. This further perplexed and angered the monarch. He speedily went to see for himself. Calico opened the entrance, and they both walked out to speak to Rinkitink, Inga, and Bilbil. Immediately, Roquat demanded, "What are you doing out here?" They interpreted this statement to be, "Where did you come from? Why did you return?" But Roquat really meant, How did you get out here, and where did those guards come from? Many times people converse with each other where the words do not really tell what they are truly saying. This was one of those times. Before anyone could reply, the Gnome King noticed the chests. What is this? We have brought gold and jewels to trade for the release of King Kitticut and Queen Gary, replied King Rinkitink. Come to my royal chamber and bring the chests with you. I will see what you have and then decide, replied Roquat. Arriving in the royal chamber, Rinkitink got off Bilbil's back and stood with the others while Roquat sat on his throne. Guards opened the chests to reveal the gold and pearls. Roquat's eyes lit up in delight at this beautiful sight. He loved gold and jewels, and here were more to add to his collection. But what about his bridal arrangements? Roquat decided to contemplate the matter and tell them his decision the next morning. Rinkitink, Inga, and Bilbil and the guards were escorted to a new chamber, which included food upon a table. A gnome guard questioned Rinkitink as he entered the chamber, saying, "Every gnome has been looking for you all day. How did you escape?" They chose to give no reply, but when they were alone, they looked at each other in confusion at this revelation. Obviously, Roquat had not used his power to send them away. If Roquat didn't send them to Gilgad, then how did they get there? None of this makes any sense to me, but it has worked in our favor if Roquat will accept your bribe, said Rinkitink. I miss my parents so much. I just wish I could see them, stated Inga. And to the surprise of all, Inga immediately disappeared. In the split moment, Inga found himself in a shiny golden forest. Then before him were his parents. The three embraced and cried tears of joy at being reunited once again. Inga, where did you come from? Asked King Kitticut. I am here to release you with Rinkitink and Bilbil. I was just saying how I wished I could see you again, and here I am. Come with us, Inga. We were just about to eat dinner. We can converse while we eat, Kitticut instructed. Father, how can food be found in a forest of metal? Asked Inga. You will see. King Kitticut led Inga out of the metal forest where all of the trees were made of gold. Inga paused to look at the leaves made of fine filigreed silver on the bushes and underground beneath the trees of gold. Littered on the ground as far as the eye could see within the metal forest, there were numberless jewels. Before long, they advanced into a green grove, a live forest with a large cavern of the Gnome Kingdom. The royal family passed by a hut made out of golden branches and twigs. Kitticut walked over to a nearby tree and said, "A fruit named three-course nuts are plentiful in this grove," as he reached for a large coconut-shaped one. Unscrewing the top, a warm liquid soup was revealed. The first course is a delicious soup. Here, try it, said Kitticut, pausing and passing the nut to Inga. As Inga drank the soup, Kitticut reached for 2 more nuts, passed one to Queen Gary, and they both joined him in drinking the soup with them. After drinking the soup, the 3 entered the hut to continue their meal. The second section unscrewed to reveal 4 courses, which included meat, potatoes, a vegetable, and a salad. The last section contained dessert. While eating, Inga related his adventures. At last, he came to the mystery of how he had escaped the Gnome King's mountain and how he had appeared in this cavern. All 3 recognized the use of magic and knew the pearls did not contain his power. King Kitticut suggested inquiring of the white pearl to learn the source of this magic. The pearl revealed the story of Zenoro, the wizard, and added these unknown facts. Zenoro bequeathed at his death that his magic power be transferred to the 3 trick caverns as a reward for the next person to survive the ordeal. But he included a use clause with that the power would only work within the Gnome King's mountain. Zenoro understood the cunning of Roquat, king of the gnomes, and he wished to even the odds for anyone who would come against him. One victor of the caverns was enough. But if someone else also defeated the Gnome King through this test, the anger of this tyrant may lead to the demise of the victor. Thus, Inga had this magic power at his disposal within the realm of the Gnome King. Just by saying the word wish would grant him his desire. The royal family realized that Inga must return to his friends to keep the secret of this magic power from Roquat. They now knew that whether the Gnome King granted their release or not, Inga held the power to release them. When Inga returned to his friends, they were as amazed as he was to learn about Zenoro's magic. Bilbo was quieter than usual. It was obvious that something was on his mind, but he remained mute. Rinkitink and Inga discussed whether they should just use the power to escape with his parents and the chests of gold and jewels, or wait for Roquat's decision. Being honorable men, they decided to hope to trade for the release of King Kitticat and Queen Gary. The next day, they were all summoned to the Gnome King's royal chamber. Roquat looked through the chests, weighing in his mind the treasures within and what had previously been given to him to enact the imprisonment of King Kitticat and Queen Gary. He found that Rinkitink's treasure far outweighed what was given to him by King Goss and Queen Cor. I will release your parents if you can solve this riddle, revealed Roquat. In a forest underground, amazing fruit there can be found. Name this fruit, describe it to me, then your parents will be free. Roquat did not realize that Inga already knew the answer to this riddle. This fruit was only found in the underground cavern in the Gnome King's domain. Roquat thought this was an opportunity to gain more gold and jewels and imprison those before him. Well, what's the answer? Roquat demanded gruffly. Roquat, you promise to release my parents if I give you the answer, asked Inga. Of course, replied Roquat confidentially. Then here's the answer. The fruit is called three-course nuts, began Inga. Roquat's confidence immediately fell as Inga perfectly described the three-course nut. Roquat was sure that no one had ever heard of this fruit, but once again, these intruders had defeated him. Their power was unbearable. Roquat decided to take the treasure and release King Kitticat and Queen Gary to be rid of all these tiresome intruders. I don't know how you guessed the riddle, but you have. So I will free your parents, replied Roquat. Wait here for their return. While waiting for Inga's parents, Bilbo paced back and forth within the chamber. Rinkitink sensed his unrest and asked, Bilbo, what is the matter? I am embarrassed to tell you, my friend, replied Bilbo. Hesitatingly, Bilbo continued. I know you have wondered how I can talk as a goat living outside the land of Oz. This is why. Years ago, I encountered Zenoro the wizard. He placed a spell on me that turned me into this scrawny goat. Why, Bilbo, who are you? I'm really Prince Bobo of Boboland. Then I hold the power to turn you back, Inga excitedly exclaimed. Bilbo was torn and replied, I would like to be changed back, but the Gnome King must not know about Zenoro's magic. How is this to be accomplished? The friends thought this over for a while, and finally Inga responded, I will change you back right before we cross the exit of the Gnome King's domain. The guards behind us will block this transformation from any known view. Before long, Inga's parents arrived, and they began their journey out of the mountain. Rinkitink rode on Bilbo, with Inga following behind. As they walked, Inga spoke softly under his breath, while the footsteps of those around him muffled the words he spoke. As the cavern exit drew near, Bilbo stopped for Rinkitink to get off his back, and instantly the goat disappeared, and there in his place appeared a dignified young man dressed as one of Rinkitink's royal guards. Calico had walked in the rear of the procession and quickly closed the entrance to the Gnome Kingdom as soon as everyone was out. Never noticing Bilbo's transformation into Bobo, Inga had thought of everything when making his wish by giving Bobo a guard's uniform. It helped to disguise him from detection. Once outside, Rinkitink saw another wish from Inga, a goat that looked exactly like Bilbo, but could not talk. Rinkitink rode upon the new goat with Bobo, walking alongside him during the journey back to the shore. While Bobo was a guest, he was surly, was a goat, he was surly, but now he was a courteous and dignified fellow. After a short time of awkwardness, Rinkitink, Bobo, and Inga conversed and laughed over old times. They even sang some of Rinkitink's songs together, their voices blending beautifully along the path. Inga was happy to be reunited with his parents. They also passed the time during this journey talking together. As the shore came into view, Inga looked expectantly toward the ship, and in an instant, a colorful tent with tables and chairs underneath replaced the view of the barren shore. Inga immediately cried out cheerfully, "It worked, it really worked." "What do you mean? What did all of this come from?" asked his father. "The pearl, and that the magic from the Zenora would only work in the Gnome King's domain. So while we were led to the cave exit, I made some extra wishes," replied Inga. "As you can see, it worked. I thought Prince Bobo would enjoy eating a human meal after being a goat for so long. Besides, we are all hungry." It was true. The traveling party was very hungry, and they quickly found their seats around the table and began eating. Through his wish, Inga had provided a variety of foods, all for everyone to enjoy. After completing their meal, Kitticut, Gary, Inga, and Rinkitink, Bobo, and the goat, fondly named Bilbil, and the guards boarded the ship for their return to Pingaree. As they looked back to the shoreline, the tent, table, and food vanished from their sight. "Inga, we and our people have a tedious task before us to rebuild your palace and many homes on our island. I know our people have accomplished very much in our absence. I know they couldn't have accomplished very much in our absence," Kitticut commented in a worried tone. "I have placed a worthy leader, Nicobob, to oversee the work, Father. Put all worries about this from your mind until we see what is left to be completed upon our return to Pingaree," replied Inga, who had also made a wish for the buildings to be magically completed. He was anxious to see for himself if this wish would come true as well. When they returned to Pingaree, it appeared that nothing had changed since before the attack and the destruction of their peaceful island. Nicobob revealed that everyone had awakened the day before and found all of their building endeavors completed, every building that had been returned to its original state. The people also noticed a large collection of oysters along the shore and immediately started the task of gathering pearls. Every oyster contained not one, but two or more pearls, which were large and in varied colors. This, in one day's time, the people of Pingaree collected 3 chests full of pearls. "King Rinkitink, without your help, King Gary and I would still be captives within the Gnome King's mountain. Please take these chests of pearls to replace the gold and jewels you traded for our freedom," King Kitticut pleaded. "Thank you, King Kitticut, and I look forward to more peaceful visits in the future," replied Rinkitink with a chuckle. On a more serious note, Rinkitink turned to Bobo and asked, "Bobo, would you like us to return you to your land now?" Bobo hesitated slightly and then replied, "With your permission, I would prefer to return to Rinkitink. We have become such fine friends that I have no desire to return to Boboland anymore." This pleased Rinkitink as well. So Bobo, Rinkitink, and all the people of Pingaree lived peaceful, happy lives. Conversations would return to their adventures every time these rulers visited one another, and other adventures followed, but are not recorded here. The end. That was a story from the 2016 version of Oziana, and this version contains many alternative endings to the story of Rinkitink and Oz. I hope that you have enjoyed this reading this morning, and you will join us again to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Oziana, the original publication of the Wizard of Oz Club, containing poems, stories, and artwork by our members. Thank you very much, and see you again soon.